The unconscious sleuth is about using your analytical and problem-solving skills, along with your intuitive perceptions and a toolkit, to explore your unconscious and subconscious minds. Why would you want to explore your unconscious? Because if you start to understand what's going on in your unconscious, you can start to heal yourself and realize your full creative potential. Creative potential is not just for artists. Living creatively can help you to problem solve, realize your dreams, and have better physical and mental health. This talk is about showing you some of the tools that I have found extremely helpful in exploring my unconscious. I am not a health professional in any way. I am just someone who has used this method of self-therapy and through it has unlocked my creative potential and also healed many physical chronic health conditions. Sleuthing is basically a form of self-psychotherapy. So just a warning. Sleuthing your unconscious can be quite daunting and difficult at times. It requires a level of emotional robustness, optimism and determination, and you need to consider whether this is a good time in your life to start such a venture. If in doing this you feel overwhelmed or emotionally unsafe, then you should seek the help of a health professional. About 16 years ago, I did a course called Open the Lid on Your Creative Genius. The creator of this course was David Enwich, and it introduced me to an interesting paradigm. The basis of this paradigm is that the human mind does not function as a homogeneous unit, but is made up of lots of different components. Components that don't always agree with each other or communicate with each other. Not agreeing with each other will cause cognitive dissonance. Not communicating with each other will cause your creative energies to get stuck, like the cogs in an engine that simply won't move because they are all seized up. The aim of the course was to learn how to communicate with these components so that they all communicated with each other so that you could reach your full creative potential. There are a number of philosophical principles that underpin this paradigm, which I will explain in a moment. Using these principles in conjunction with an understanding of the plurality that exists in our minds can bring about a more creative thinking process and a more creative life. As I have used these principles over the last 16 years, I have developed my own tactics and have combined it with a number of other paradigms to not only unlock my creative potential, but to bring about major changes in my physical health. I have come to call this process sleuthing because it uses your problem-solving, analytical skills and intuitive perceptions just like sleuthing does. Like all good sleuthing, it relies heavily on good interviewing techniques. It also requires carefully following the faintest clues by using all of your sensory awareness until you solve the puzzle. The experience of sleuthing for me is like taking part in a movie. The characters are your conscious self and the different components in your mind that I will explain in a moment. I don't direct the movie, nor do I write the script, and I can only control what I say and do. I don't control anyone else in the film. So, yes, it is a particular form of visualization and imagery technique, a technique that anyone can learn. Visualization and imagery techniques are constantly used in psychology, spiritual practice, relaxation techniques, and by artists. Like all techniques, the more you do it, the better you get. You're creating a mental sensory experience of sound, sight, smell, and taste. At first, it's best to do it when relaxed and not distracted, and use it like a guided meditation. However, once you have mastered it, once you have developed an intimate relationship with these parts of yourselves, this interior world of yours becomes easily accessed at any point in the day for guidance, creative problem solving, and emotional healing. I will briefly explain the principles I learnt in the course. This is what I call the toolkit. These principles are all interconnected. Volumes have been written about these principles by authors of philosophy and spirituality. I will explain these principles quickly, but in the appendix you will find more information about these ideas that I have found useful from other sources. In the second talk, I will talk about how I have used sleuthing in combination with other paradigms in recent years to improve my physical health. Let's take a look at the toolkit. The importance of cognitive dissonance. According to cognitive dissonance theory, there is a tendency for people to seek consistency among their beliefs and opinions. When there is an inconsistency between attitudes or behaviours, something must change to eliminate the dissonance. The starting point for the unconscious sleuth is to see your interior self as being made up of lots of different components rather than as a homogeneous whole. In other words, plurality is very important, both socially and inside ourselves, internally, which means everyone gets a say inside. A lot of times we can't be creative because we have suppressed certain elements in ourselves to avoid cognitive dissonance. Living with cognitive dissonance is important for creative living. Complexity is vital to creativity, so cognitive dissonance is a gift. What's more beneficial is if you listen to everyone inside and get them talking to each other and negotiating with each other rather than simply push things down into the vault of your subconscious. In other words, you have to learn how to creatively bridge paradox. This means holding two contradictory ideas together at the same time, like realizing our own nothingness and our unlimited potential, being powerful with a clear sense of purpose while being vulnerable and having an undefined purpose in life. That while the universe is in charge and events may happen as they should, you are simultaneously in control. Believing in unlimited or infinite possibilities, while at the same time understanding that sometimes there are limitations on the directions in which you may go. I create my own life. I can influence events in my life, and I have the capacity for attachment, while at the same time knowing that the universe creates my life, a belief that things happen as they should, and letting go of detachments of specific outcomes. Working with your rational and intuitive thoughts at the same time. This isn't easy. Our left hemisphere and frontal lobes will always deny the validity of our intuitions because the body is rigged to maintain its equilibrium, the status quo. However, intuition requires that we change the way we pay attention to the world. Using a child's creative playfulness with the wisdom of an old sage. Paradox is always closely related to the concept of edge. Ecosystems are most creative on the edge, for example, where the sea meets the rainforest, because it has to find creative solutions to paradoxical situations. It's important to keep some edge in your life. Edge is like the strip of marginalised land that no one wants, that seems useless. That is the real estate that is most vital to creativity. Don't throw out anything. Even your bad experiences are really useful. You just need to know how to manage them and how to turn them into jewels. In other words, you need to embrace your marginalised self. Embracing the part of you that carries emotional pain is very important for creativity, for creative living, because within suffering lies the jewels of creativity. That doesn't mean you shouldn't heal and make whole the parts of you that have suffered, but realizing the potential for using suffering in your life is very important. What makes you different is what makes you special. Your difference is your genius. The degree of hold that your suffering has on you is also the measure of its power to both transform you and contribute to your creativity. By living with an appreciation that your suffering creates gives you a quality of mind that attracts serendipity. The happy accident plays a very important role in creativity, an attitude of mind which through sensual awareness, wisdom and good fortune allows one to frequently discover something good while seeking something else, increasing our receptivity to intuition. So we've looked at these principles very briefly. As I said, the starting point for the unconscious sleuth is to see your interior self as being made up of lots of different components rather than a homogeneous self. You can identify as many of these components in yourself and make up extra ones as you like. Some of these components seem to have a more rational function, some more emotional, and others are more intuitive. The child. This is a particularly important component because when we are children, we are at the height of our creativity because our frontal lobes haven't taken over yet. Children are open in the way they play and are open to the fantasy world. Play encourages chance phenomena. In the unknown, fantastic things can take place. Also, for many people, the child in them holds a lot of their suffering. This part of you may need healing if you are to take advantage of both your suffering and the child's creativity. In my experience with myself and counselling others, loving a child to adulthood brings about the most benefit because it can then interact fully with your rational self, mystical and sensual self. The critical parent. This is the part of you that is always criticising you. Your critical parent can be too strong or not strong enough. The old wise one. This is your wisdom, your sage. If you can get your sage to work with your child, wisdom with playfulness will bring about a lot of creative results together. The mystic. The mystic is that in you that connects with that which is beyond yourself. The mystic is about spirituality, mystery and intuition. It's not about answers or beliefs. Beliefs need to be our servants, not our masters. As soon as we have all the answers, we feel that void, the unknown which moves us forward. When we have all the answers, our beliefs can stop us from asking questions. Being overly emotionally attached to any beliefs can end up controlling us and inhibit our ability to make free choices. The gardener. This is a part of your critical, rational thinking. He's called the gardener because he pulls out the weeds. He takes all of your creative ideas and decides which ones will work, be cost efficient, etc. He is our life's editor, and when working well, he is another example of intuition working with rational ideas. Your sensual self. An appreciation of all sensual pleasures and our bodies. It's about keeping in touch with our sensual selves and our sexual selves. Combining intuition and sensuality is about experiencing the world in a different way. Housing the artist is about using sensual awareness to unlock creative ideas, allowing colour and beauty, especially in nature, to heal us. The joker. Life is a game of questions and answers, and finding the funny side of things is very important. Humour can unlock us when we get stuck. The Fool is the unnumbered card in the tarot deck, and it's indicated by endless possibilities. The game of life is about asking the right questions that line up with the right goals and listening for the answers. The storyteller is about how you think about your past, present and future, the stories about your life. To remember and incorporate our past is like reattaching a body part that has been left outside or rejected. By allowing disowned parts of our self-experience and related emotions and thoughts back into consciousness, their power to cripple us becomes diminished. It's important to joyously love your past. Through forgiveness, we are forgiven, and always looking for the gift in adversity. Cultivate an attitude of gratitude by not judging your condition or that of others. So if my relationship with my storyteller changes for the best, then my relationship with that which is beyond myself, including those non-controllable events in my life which are part of my story, then the next step has to be that the relationship with that which creates those non-controllable events in my life, that which is beyond myself, the mystic who connects ourselves with that, must change as well. This is not about understanding suffering. This is about getting the most benefit from suffering. Troubles are markers that indicate a change in the direction of our path. Trouble initiates a new process of self-discovery. It's about being an alchemist, striving to extract gold from base metals, searching for that which is precious among the dreariest and most discouraging aspects of our life. An attitude of gratitude is not an attempt to gloss over or deny very real adversity. It's about raising our conscious focus from the negative to all the positive aspects of our condition. Our entire being, both physical and non-physical, is affected by every positive change in our consciousness. Gratitude changes the way you think and problem solves because the one who sees the past blessing sees also the present's answers and the future's opportunity. Our suffering may be seen as part of a conspiracy between our mystic and our storyteller. How we relate to our marginalized self is very closely connected to how we relate to our storyteller. And how we relate to our storyteller is closely connected to the concept of serendipity. So let's get started. The process starts out very simply by you using your imagination. Just start looking for these entities. See if you can visualize your child, for example, in you. If you can't do that, go back into your childhood and think about what he or she liked doing. Then start imagining you as an adult talking to that child. Start forming a relationship with that part of yourself and your past. Use all of your mental, sensory abilities, your experience of sound, sight, smell, and taste to do this. At first, it will feel like make-believe, but after much practice, you will start to feel like you are really getting to know these different entities inside you. For me, they take on a very specific look, tone of voice, persona, and gender. This is very important because that sensual awareness of them is where a lot of the clues are. Once you've started to become good at this visualization technique, you will be able to start working with them. By looking and listening carefully, you will start to pick up clues, ask questions, and listen for answers. If you keep following the clues, you will solve the puzzle. Personal growth puzzles like, why isn't this or that working in my life, etc. Work-related puzzles, problem-solving puzzles, and artistic creative puzzles. You can use the components in you that are strong and whole to love, nurture, and heal the components that aren't. You can work at getting your wise one connected to your sensual self so that you are more in touch with your body. Your gardener might take up the child's unlimited creative ideas and work out which ones are more likely to succeed. The teacher in you can start to guide you into practical steps that you need to take to get better at things. Any of the personas in you that need healing can be loved to wholeness by other parts of you. The task of healing different parts of yourself can take many hours, days, or weeks, and can be very painful, but well worth the effort. Let's take, for example, the child in you needs healing. Find someone in yourself who can look after that child. Ask the child what they want, what it needs. Imagine giving it what it needs and see if he or she will take it. The child will quickly take on a particular look, feel, and if you form a relationship with that child, you can love them to adulthood. In my experience, it's really important because it will need to become an adult in order to connect fully to your sensual, mystical, and rational selves. If the child's immense creative energy can be realized into action. If you want to change some of these entities, you can ask them about particular characteristics and what's in it for them, and then offer them a better deal. Once you start working with your interior in this way, you will soon get very good at listening to clues about what is needed to improve communication between the different entities in you. I have been using this technique for psychological improvement, problem solving, and developing my creativity for nearly 2 decades. While it has had a very positive impact on nearly all aspects of my life, there was one area that it did not improve, and that was my physical health. I knew this system of internal navigation could be used to reprogram my unconscious, but I had no way of connecting this process to my physical health. The next talk is about how I have used this process in combination with other paradigms to dramatically improve my health. Thank you.